Hi Lane, alright, here's your past life, and we are emphasizing a life having to do with health and fitness and that kind of thing. And it's interesting because before I laid the cards out, I felt or heard Poland, and then we get the Europe card, and it feels like we're going to Poland, okay? So just keep that in mind. And then we're going to see what you did with the majority of your time, 2 important days, the death, and the lesson learned, alright? And so we're in Poland, and I want to tell you, it feels like this is just a couple of lifetimes ago, and I feel like we're looking at an era where women dressed very, I want to say it's like World War One. Okay, so keep that in mind because I'm just seeing this is a female's life, and you're dressed very properly, and so here, and there's lots of like beiges and browns involved, so keep that in mind as far as what you might like in this life too, what you might veer towards. It's very clean colored. So this card is the take care of me card, which is really interesting. And we start, what I'm looking at is the progression of starting from a very young age, and you're in a very wealthy family and you're taken care of. Now this card can mean, usually it means someone sickly that has to be taken care of, but in this instance it's financially, and you are in a very wealthy family and you're experiencing you're just experiencing a lot of comfort and a lot of luxury, okay? And so this is going to be, I feel like it's going to be very interesting because I think we're going to be looking at it in a way that we didn't see, that we didn't expect to see as far as the intention that was set for this spread, okay? So the first important day, and I can describe what I'm seeing as far as your circumstances. We're looking at a family where you live in the city in this very large complex where it's almost like a very large condo. I don't think it's a separate house. So I feel like your father here is in politics, or he's very well known, and your mother is somewhat distant, and she is involved in her own life and in society, and your job is to look pretty and be quiet, okay? And this is very high society. So this first day, let's go forward. This is the Conquered and They Have Come card, and I really feel like this, we're looking at like World War One. We're looking at World War One, or even World War Two. This could be like your last. It's very modern. It's very it's more contemporary. We're not looking at anything older than contemporary, really. And like I want to say 20th century kind of thing. And so I feel like this is, we're looking at the war. We're looking at the war spreading to where you are, and we're looking at this kind of situation where it's you either have to flee or you're cooperating with what's it called when people come in and they occupation. And also keep in mind too, this might be your home where you're in the city, but your family owns homes outside of the city. I feel like they own a home out in the country, and then also where there's another state nearby where you go for the summer, okay? I want to say almost like the kind of like thing where it's like a Switzerland getaway kind of thing. So okay, so here we have an occupation where the enemy is coming in and they're taking over. So what we're seeing here, sorry, let's show you. So we're seeing the soul group right here, and we're seeing the betrayal card. And I think what's happening, what it feels like is your family remains and cooperates, and in doing so, in not fleeing, there's a sense of betrayal. I also feel like there's a sense of hypocrisy with your family, and having to do with it's almost like, you know, in the Holocaust, Jewish people, like, they wouldn't deny their Judaism. It's almost like there's a denial of something here that allows your family to stay safe, which is totally understandable. So I feel like they almost like they betray people, like people feel betrayed by what they decide to do, by what your family decides to do. And this soul group is really interesting because you feel there's a sense of being misplaced, and yet you find somebody in this. I feel like there's someone who is part of the war, part of the other side that you meet and that you link up with, and both of you are against this war, but you both have to stay in your positions because at this time you're young and unmarried, and you meet this person from the other side, and there's a connection between you two. And the betrayal also goes towards you from your family because your family sees this as well. It's not like they want the other side to be there, but they're basically pretending in order to keep up their appearance, keep up their lifestyle is what it is. They don't want to give up their lifestyle, but they also don't agree with that side, if that makes sense. And here we're seeing you make a connection with the other side, and because you're able to see from a bigger picture, you're seeing, like, you're talking to this person and you're seeing that they don't want to be there. They're following orders, just like you're following orders by being a daughter and staying with your family. And the thing is here, what's really interesting is this whole life has to do with looking pretty. This whole life is all about image, and not necessarily health or fitness, but image. And the image of it keeps you healthy, keeps you looking trim and beautiful. And I mean, we're looking at someone that is, I feel like there's there's a feeling of artistic desires where you feel like you want to be a singer, you want to be in the entertainment, and that's just a no-no for your family. That's what I feel like. You're supposed to get married and marry well. Here it's like your beauty is what they hold on to. And you don't like that, but you appreciate it. You know what it brings you. So there's so much more to you, so much more in depth, like, to you, and this person that you meet sees that in you. And of course at first, you're beautiful and he wants to get to know you, but there's so much more to you, and this person sees that in you. It's a really complicated situation, and it's almost like there's a feeling of time running out because that person is kind of assigned to your area, but you don't know how long it's going to last. It's very interesting. Okay, so keep that in mind. Keep this in mind. This, as far as connections go, there's connections of not feeling worthy, even though you already are. Like, so the parental connection, feelings of not being seen for who you are, just being seen for what you present to the world as an image. Also, keep in mind a desire to do something, whether it's performance art in this life or a desire to do a hobby or to take up something that you feel like, oh, I can't do this until ... It's like you might want to try new things, but you're like, oh, if I were thinner, I would do this. Oh, if I were taller, I would do it. If I were stronger, I would do this. I can't do this because I'm not this. But so it's almost like making excuses to not do things that you would otherwise want to do. And that's important, actually. I feel like that's something that needs to be pushed away. That's something that's being shown to you here, because you need to see that you've already lived a life where you've been stunted in your growth and you've been unable to go and achieve things you wanted to do and achieve. So it's being shown to you now here because it's showing you that that's not an excuse anymore, and to stop making excuses, okay? So keep that in mind. Alright, also keep in mind the idea of presenting one thing to people based on what you think they want to see versus presenting who you are right away. Authenticity, that's what's coming through. It's very interesting, so keep that in mind. It doesn't mean you're not authentic, it just means that there might be a depth to you a depth to you that you're not showing, that you hold back from showing until you're sure the person that you're showing is okay with it or will accept it. And that in itself can hold someone back. Versus showing all of it right away and being true to yourself right away. And it's almost like it's a good idea to do that because you only want to surround yourself with people who will accept you and make you happy and not want you for what you show to the world, but will want you for who you are deep down, okay? Keep that in mind too. Now this one right here, the next important day, we're looking at a trauma. We're going to see what that is. We're looking at the spouse card, and we're looking at torn. Because what we're looking at here is a marriage that is somewhat arranged by your family. You're torn because you are in love with this person you've been talking to, and yet you are expected to marry someone who is in the higher circles that your family knows about. I feel like this is a few years later, and I feel like, what's going on here? It's traumatic in itself. What's happening? Something, I feel like there was a loss in the family. I feel like your mother died here. And it's almost like your mother died. It's either she's dying or she died, and they are so eager. I feel like she's in the process of dying. And they're so eager to match you up and pair you off and marry you off, especially your father, because he doesn't want to deal with this without your mother, because he relies on her for the household things, and you are considered a household thing in this sense. Very much property. It's like you have this weird, there's a weird feeling of having high self-esteem because you know you come from a nice family and you know you're beautiful, and then having this ultimately low self-esteem because you really don't know who you are, and you really can't go and figure it out without feeling comfortable, without your parental consent, so to speak. But this time we're looking at someone who's in the 20, 21, 22, very, very young, and we're looking at kind of an arranged marriage. So the trauma is coming because you're kind of watching your mother die, and you're also like being placed with a person. It's very, you feel like property, and yet you're seeing your mother die, so your humanity is being touched. It's really kind of a very it's a really bad feeling. It's a really terrible feeling because you can't show your feelings or feel what you feel because you're property. It's really kind of messed up. And so of course you're going to feel torn. It's going to be torn feel, of course. And I want to say eventually, because of how things were back here and the kind of upbringing you had, you're going to be cut away from this person who understands you and be married to someone who is just marrying you because of your family's money and your beauty. And I want to say there's a deep depression involved in this. So your connections in this life, just make connections as much as you can with what's going on here. Whether that is kind of like giving in to things when you know that there's a hardship happening, you'll just bend over and be like, okay, just to make things easy. 2, you'll give up what you truly want in order to make things easy. What else? There's one other thing I wanted to mention here about, in this life, your partnership might be very important to you because this is, I want to say it's almost like the first time in a long time, as far as lifetimes go, where you've been able to choose your own. And so that might cause you incredible joy, but it also might cause you incredible stress because you just don't have a handle. It's like you don't have a handle on how that's supposed to feel like to be able to choose for yourself. And also having someone that would appreciate you for who you are deep down in your heart versus having been appreciated for only what you show to the world right away. You know what I mean? And it's almost like there's this deep insecurity, and it doesn't have to be there because you've already lived it. You've already lived your life of it's all about image, it's all about what you look like. You've already lived that life, and now it's time to start living a life of accepting yourself and living for who you are rather than what you look like, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind, or who you are versus what you present. It's almost like presentation needs to not be as important. There's something about not only judging yourself, but others' judgment of you, because this life was all about what others saw you as, and that was the most important thing. The most important thing was your image. and you already had a lifetime like that, and it's time to not do that anymore. In order to fully live your life, there's a letting go that has to happen. So here we come to your death, and this is nice. This is a natural death. Okay, I take that back. So it's usually nice to have a natural death, but when I said that, what came to mind actually was that your life was quite unhappy with this person. Once you got married, you really didn't visit your family anymore. You didn't have your mother, even though your mother's in your relationship was not, loving and warm, it was still a female in the house. And I feel like after the marriage, you went and you did that wifely thing. You did it. You went and you had kids and you took care of the house and you went with your husband to the functions and events that were occurring, because this person as well was high up in society. And so you maintained and upkept that high society image, and it was unhappy. There was a lot of unhappiness to it. Really the only joy you took in were your kids, but it wasn't even a fulfilling joy. It's very interesting. But you died naturally. I want to say in your sleep. I want to say not too old of age, but it's to the point where I'm looking at someone in bed. I'm looking at someone with like graying white hair, and I'm looking at someone with not a lot of wrinkles, but old enough for that. And it's odd because even though you lived in the lap of luxury, you would have your soul consider this more of a hard life because it was so rigid, and it was just really all about one thing, and there wasn't a lot of expansion. But here's the thing, is you have to experience that kind of life sometimes. And you also have to realize, just because you hear a hard life, it doesn't mean you were like laboring away, and it doesn't mean you had to go through all these sacrifices, even though you did sacrifice a lot. It doesn't mean it had to be technically like physically hard to be a hard life, like it's hard for your soul to be so rigid, but it had to experience that. And so we come to the lesson, and this is the boundaries card. This is the boundaries card, and it's so important, I feel like, because the lesson in this life was for you to be constantly given experiences where you could have set boundaries. You could have been with this person. You could have told your parents no. It's not like, this wasn't like this, 1600s where you technically were property. This is more contemporary, where women did have more of a voice by now, but you didn't allow that for yourself just based on the lifestyle you had. And you could have set boundaries. You were given experiences where you could, your mother's death alone it was almost like it could have been a catalyst for you to say, no, this is enough. I want happiness. I want to, I don't want to die like she died, as a wife of someone where there's no love involved. And you didn't set boundaries here. And I feel like it's coming up now because it's very important for you to set boundaries for yourself and around and to others about what is acceptable for you and what you really want and what you want to achieve. And it's almost like what I'm being shown is like a wall around yourself, but not a wall where it's like keeping everyone out. This wall, it's like a wall. It's like an invisible wall keeping opinions out, keeping others' expectations out. And it's the kind of thing where you're in the middle, and the only thing that should be in that space with you are your own expectations and your own desires and what you really, really want. And that's what should fill that space. And so, because you asked about a life that has to do with health and fitness, what came up was a life of your image. And that's really interesting to me because it's telling me, and this is for you to feel out too, but for me, it's telling me that what you underlying, there's also a question there about how do I become more beautiful? And in health is important, it is, but health and beauty are so different, and we tend to put them together, and I don't know if that's the case, so that's for you to decide. But it's almost like, It's almost like once you stop putting them together, health and beauty, once you stop putting them together, you will get the results you want. You will start to go towards what is healthier for you as soon as you focus and learn that health is health, beauty is beauty. Not to mention, you are beautiful. So, like, move on. You're beautiful. You don't need to worry about that. As far as health goes, just focus on doing what you love. I feel like that has to do with this too, is you weren't able to do activities here that you really wanted to do. Like here, you wanted to perform, you wanted to, I really feel like you wanted to do opera, like you wanted to sing your little heart out on stage and that you had the abilities, and you didn't do that. And I feel like if you want to get healthy, if you want to take care of what you want to take care of, it's about following your desire to do activities that you want to do, not what your friends want to do, not being invited along to do what others want to do, like you did here, but seeking out activities that will fulfill your soul, if that makes sense, whatever that might be. And it's interesting because it might not even mean physically. It might not mean like, oh, I want to go take Pilates and I'll get healthy that way, because that's also, you know, that what I mean more is like if you want to take a trip somewhere, if you want to go learn something and take a class or something like that, even though it's not physical, the joy you are going to find in doing exactly what you want, not what others want, not what society wants you to come along and do, by doing that joy you're going to find, it's going to automatically turn you in the direction of a healthier lifestyle, because I feel like when you get to a state of that mental health where you're taking charge of your life, that is mental health. That's a mentally healthy thing. When you get to that state, it's going to have a domino effect and affect your physicality as well. I truly feel that here. So I really hope that answers any questions or that speaks to you in some way. And I'm here if you have any questions as well. And I hope you enjoyed that and that made sense. It was very, there's a lot of intensity in here because there's a lot of feelings of you not doing what you really wanted to do and not being with who you wanted to be with. And there's a lot of just rigid holding back, and it needs to be different now. Okay, anyway, I'm done now. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.